Hi, it's Jen. I'm back again reading another chapter from my book for people who don't like to read. Although, even if you don't like to read, you should go buy my book on Amazon because I would really appreciate your support. Okay, chapter is a mental makeover. The mental game I've learned to play on a daily basis is both life-saving and possibly a qualification for entry to a carefully watched over asylum. People love to say, think positive, but those are most likely the types of specimens that are already wired that way. To be entering midlife and at the same time starting a ground zero rebuild of rewiring my everyday thinking is a full-time job that not only requires massive attention, but is also done pro bono. And if not done correctly, can severely and emotionally interrupt the part-time jobs I do need to be very present for. Which raises the question, what came first? The homelessness or the mental illness? Unfortunately, I live in Los Angeles and nobody cares. There is an astounding dismissiveness to mental struggles. And rightly so. I am not judging. It's hard to help a problem we can't see. If someone on the street looks hungry, I'll buy them a Big Mac. If they are vulgar and screaming nonsense into the sky, my only self-protective reaction is to cross the street. But I've strayed from my original topic, which is my chaotic yet still seemingly for now societally functioning brain. I've touched on my yoga experience in the past, but here I go, possibly off the deep end, because at this point I have nothing to lose and only feel good about posting my writing when I'm freely honest. Yoga is powerful and amazing, but if not mentally played right, can also be extremely too quiet. The same reason I have a very difficult time staying home at night after the sun goes down. I am pretty good at focusing on the yoga instructor's voice to stay present, although I occasionally will stray to the random thoughts of making out with a stranger or indulging in fried chicken wings during a football game, which I still have yet to do. I have, though, after when I wrote this, it was 592, but I'm almost up to 1,000 now. Hot yoga classes. In the past 3 years, I have managed to train my mind to cultivate an inner world that exists mostly between my upper pelvis and thinning hairline region. Oh, it's not thinning too much. It started out about a year ago with me making the decision to try and manually rewire my own brain through heavy conscious thought and visualization. How I decided this was something I was capable of is beyond me, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I didn't make up the phrase. I've just abided by it for most of my adult life. I don't know how or at what speed a cranium could perform its own neuroplasticity. It's a big word. That's the technical term for rewiring of a brain. I know. I'm smarter than y'all thought. And I have Google. This is not a venture I ever planned on doing, but just somehow came into existence on its own volition out of my brain's pure need for survival. Fight or flight, I believe it's called. Work schedule and time permitting, I began going to hot yoga classes every single day, often twice a day if possible. With every deep breath in, I envisioned, and this is where I may sound weird, but I envisioned a little group of people, kind of like munchkins from The Wizard of Oz, parading through my brainwaves and stitching up all the holes that may have appeared defeated and demoralized. Basically, my whole brain is what I pictured. At first, I just envisioned them sewing up some loose ends, but eventually realized these living quarters needed a full remodeling. Before I knew it, the majority of not just my hot yoga flowing hours, but most of my day got taken over with the need to facilitate these small munchkin brain allies in planting new seeds of happiness. My favorite is to imagine a garden of hearts that sprout through my lungs and chest like flowers. Sometimes balloons, because in order to fly, I need to soar above, while at the same time imagining those balloon strings are connected to the people above me who have passed away and hold the strings to keep my balloons afloat. Not just the people, but the universe in general. I spent most of my adult life thinking the universe was against me, only now realizing it has always had my back and stuck by me way longer than it needed to, and I owe it a huge apology. I could have been dead, in jail, or God forbid, in a boring relationship. Just kidding. That's a joke. On more occasions than I'd like to remember. I've spent most of my adult life wondering why I seem to be incapable of a proper adult romance. Only now figuring out is because I am the happy relationship. Me and my munchkin crew. Nobody wants a garden with no beautiful heart flowers. Mine are still just barely sprouting, but believe me, I am working those munchkins overtime. I believe my heart grows with every newly acquired feeling of peace and contentment that I didn't know was possible, and yet am still extremely uncomfortable with because, unbeknownst to me until recently, I guess my brain and nervous system thrived on heartbreak and insecurity. I don't know who I am face to face. Especially now that I'm older and can't rely on a smile and a tight shirt. There is no reason for a guy to be interested in a girl, a woman, who feels she has nothing to say in person, only wants to talk on stage, and can apparently only comfortably and vulnerably communicate her deepest thoughts via an Apple Mac keyboard. I'm like the very physically able but emotionally incapable Stephen Hawking of communication. But I'm sure after another 600 classes or so of hot sweat brain renovation, I'll be the Brad Pitt of the middle-aged dating game. Uh-oh. Aiming high. Which is probably where I want to peak. They say retirement homes are a hotbed of romance, so I should be at the top of my game by the time I hit that phase of life. Those poor suckers who peaked in high school are going to be so jealous. Thanks for listening, watching, or if you're actually reading the book.